Authentic, important conversations help us understand life and relationships better and make us feel connected. Those connections build a community where you belong because your contributions matter. That's why Shelley and Toby are bringing you news and views. Join us to explore ideas, news, opinions, experiences, and real-life stories. Live on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Come chat about life with your friends.
What's happening?
What's the matter?
Echo. Do you know?
What's happening?
Oh, never mind. That's me. That's my fault. I'm confused.
All right.
Hello and welcome to News and Views and Views of News with Shelley and Toby. Tonight we're going to be talking about the news and the most trending topics. What's up with you, Tobes?
I told you that I had made my travel plans for my upcoming trip to the East Coast to visit new grandbabies.
Yeah.
And so I sent out a letter this morning after I completed my plans. I sent out a letter this morning, and I had to make hotel reservations for Boca Raton because Toby, Renee, and her family are going to be there and for a couple of days. And I didn't plan on making hotel reservations for Charleston because Ryan Marie has a big house. And I just got an email from Ryan Marie saying, here's a great hotel for you to stay in Charleston. I guess I'm going to have to call her and beg. Yeah. I don't know. So,
the place you stayed last time is now occupado, right?
Yeah, it is by Gigi.
So that's the problem they're in, I guess.
Yeah. So it's okay. I don't mind. I'll get a place if I have to. So, but the other thing I didn't do is I didn't get a car because I didn't have. I'll have to work it out with her. It's got to be something. Who is that cute little news flash emoji?
That's me.
Look at you.
That's me.
That's you. It is you. So welcome to our friends out there in the chat room. Looks like Long Way to Tipperary is already in and letting us know there. Hi, Long Way. How are you doing?
Hello.
So are we ready? You want to get started here?
Yeah.
All right.
I am ready for everything.
All right. Hit it.
Intro and announcements. That's what we're talking now. Don't forget, we have showtimes. Showtimes that are different than what we say in the intro and outro because we've recently changed them. So be aware. Wednesdays, 7 p.m. News and Views. These are all Mountain Daylight Time. 7 p.m. Wednesday, News and Views. 11 a.m. Thursday, Women Conquer Business. 1 p.m. Thursday, Messages and Methods. 7 p.m. Saturday, that's right here, right now, News and Views. And we're happy to be here with you. What else?
So here's Indiana Jones is apparently in the room.
Hey, Indiana Jones was watching my Women Conquer Business show the other day.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got a follower, huh? That's nice.
Yeah, Indy.
Okay, I do want to spend a couple of minutes, I don't know, it could be more than a couple of minutes, talking about the Hindman auction of Fenn's lifetime collection of art and artifacts. And I told you that I noticed, I'm going to pop this open right now. So
popping it open.
Popping it open. So the auction went, I thought, pretty smoothly. There were a couple of early items that didn't sell, but you can see that the prices here, a set of pictures of Conor Parker sold for $10,000. More pictures, another set of Conor Parker for $1,500. So they did really, really well. There was early on, there was a couple of groups that didn't sell photographs around Fort Sill Agency in the Indian Territory. And they only put the sales prices here. They don't put what they were expecting them. But for the most part, they were getting more than they were expecting for all of these lots. But again, some of them just didn't sell. There was this one here, the Apache Infants Beaded Hide Moccasins, didn't sell. But later on, there was another infants. Some of these, look at these full length moccasins, the knees, going for 8,000, 5,000, 8,000. This was one of the dolls that is in his book that I have. This was the hide cradle as with a doll. So these were all going for very nice prices. Even this thing, the Kiowa tack knife, they were expecting that to sell for between 1,000 and 2,000. It went for 4,000. When it got to these beaded items, these are small pieces, but they're historic in a sense. And the prices, look at this one, nearly $10,000. Now you got to remember, this is the sales price. The buyer is charged another 25% buyer's premium. So a $5,000 item plus 25% is going to be 6.25. So,
Gosh, if only some of that money would go back to the family of the people who created those objects.
that would be interesting, huh?
Right.
So you can see how they did. I'm gonna change the page here. This is one of the ones that I was really surprised. I actually bid on this, the infant quilled hide moccasins, but I didn't get it. Somebody outbid me, and I kind of set prices for myself. I had set, I didn't want to spend more than $2,000, and that's exactly the number I hit after you add the buyer's premium and the shipping costs and everything. So, but let's get down to the big stuff. This one here. Wait, there was one that I was really surprised at. Oh, this hair pipe hair ornament. They hang it in their hair to look at it. Went for $375. I wasn't interested in it. The knives. Look at this knife an old knife with a beaded sheath. $87.50. So some of these went for really big prices. These are tobacco pouches when they're long like that, but they're beaded. There's an amazing amount of work in all of these things. It always surprised me how much work. This is the, they do add the buyer's premium. I'm sorry. So this is the Sitting Bull peace pipe. And they don't say peace pipe, a twisted pipe stem with Catlinite bull believed to belong to Sitting Bull, and they had the provenance listed in it. It went for $100,000 plus the 25% premium. So the buyer has to write a check or send a bank thing for $125,000. The smaller one only went for $8,000, but I thought it was just as pretty, honestly. This was the other biggie right here, the Sioux grizzly bear claw necklace. So between the two of those items, that was $200,000. So that was a pretty good day, I'd say. And then the things that I wanted are further down. And I think pretty sure they're on the next page because they're 403. So I wanted this lot because it was Spanish colonial artifacts found in San Lazaro Pueblo, or as Shelley calls it, trash. She's always harassing me with these things. So these were recovered from San Lazaro Pueblo, and I really wanted them for a variety of reasons. Number one, San Lazaro is across I-25, not that there was an I-25 at that point, from Las Golondrinas, which used to belong to my family, Don Miguel Delgado, which I like to say I was named after because my name is Toby Michael Younis. So I got it for $800 plus the $200. You can see the price estimate was $200 to $400, but I have a feeling some of the folks that run the auction and do the pricing on it probably had no idea, how important it was, how San Lazaro was important to the searchers. So I got that one and I was happy with that. And then the other one was, let me go back. I got to go back here. So this is the one that surprised me. This was priced at one to sell for $100 to $300, and this is the flask that was owned by Sam Snead, the golfer, and he used to carry it in his hip pocket, and he used to take swigs of it while he was out on the course. There's an old story about him lifting binoculars to look down the course, and every time he did, he'd take a little snort from his flask. That was priced at, the estimate you can see here was $150 to $300. It went for 4,000 plus, and then another 25% buyer's premium. And our friend Gidelcon, Eugene Tellis, told us the other night that it was him that bought it. So that price, he got into a bidding competition that just sent that price skyrocketing. So I'm sure they were surprised by that. But again, I don't think they knew there was a thin story in there. I think he wrote about it in one of the books or one of the scrapbooks. I can't remember which, but it became kind of an item of interest to the search community. And then the last.
Well, okay. I guess we lost Toby for a moment there. Okay. Let's continue on with what we're talking about. Oh, and he's back.
I clicked the wrong button.
Uh-oh.
I got to share the screen again. Knock myself out of my own show. How's that?
We were laughing at you.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, so let's
See what
share.
Happens?
When
The Native American gods were not happy.
we're not happy with that.
No.
Well, Sam Snead probably wasn't happy
The ghost of Sam
that he
Snead.
probably paid 10
Stop
bucks.
telling that story.
Yeah, that he probably paid $10 for the thing and it sold for that. So, and then the last piece. This is what I wanted to do here. The last thing that I wanted was, so I think he said he got the crucifixes too, the New Mexico decorated crosses. Gidelcon said that he got them. So those sold for, let's see what the total price was. Yeah, $1,500 for the crosses. I wanted this one. I wanted this cross here, the painted cross, and it was going price, but I was okay with it. And like I said, my budget for everything was $2,000. So there was a bunch of these. I thought this would make a pretty set of earrings to redo and redo them for Shelley, but man, that price went up right, screaming way up right away. And then let me see, what are the okay? So the sand.
I guess somebody else wanted to do that for me. So
Yeah, you think? Yeah,
I guess they beat you
maybe
to it.
So I wanted to get one of these, but again, they were starting to shoot out of my budget, and there was one more lot that I really, really wanted. So I had to make a choice. Do I buy this one and not get the other one? Because I promised myself not to buy both because it was just going to be too much. So this is the other one that I got, this mixed pottery shards. And the estimate was $500 to $700, which I felt I could afford, and it sold for $813 with a buyer's premium. So when you add everything up plus the tax, plus there's a $95 shipping charge, it came to exactly $2,000. So I was right at my amount. And when I get them, I think we'll have a little show, and I'll put them under the stereo microscope so you can see them. What they don't show, so this is the back sides, but they do show on the front side, there's all these really kind of cool designs on them. So these are spinning whorls for making thread from yarn, from not yarn, but sheep what is it? Not sheepskin, sheep hair, sheep wool. I don't know.
Sheep hair.
We never owned them. We had horses and cows. We never had sheep. So I got that one, and that made me happy. So I got two of the three things that I really wanted. I really wanted the Spanish colonial artifacts from San Lazaro, and I wanted this from San Lazaro. I didn't, like I said, I did not get the axe heads. So, but it was fun to be part in the auction because you can do it online. You can bid online. You can watch the whole auction online. So it was exciting to watch. You can bid, and then they process it for you, and you get it in the mail. You get an invoice, and all the options to pay. If you pay with a credit or debit card, there's a surcharge. These guys charge for everything, by the way. And then if you pay with a bank account, you can refer them to your bank account, and that doesn't have any interest associated with it. So I don't know why that picture is on there. Oh, I know why that picture is on there. So you want to talk about your content quiz?
Yes, if you would like to contribute to our pool of knowledge, we have a very short quiz. It's 3 questions plus your name and email, which are optional. If you just want to answer the questions about what kind of content you like and help us to improve our shows, then go to that quiz and just answer a few questions. And give
So
us your opinion.
yeah, it has to do with how you consume content. I mean, Shelley did a really good job of configuring this, and it's just a kind of open-ended thing. It's for things that we're going to do in the future. I'm talking with Jason about some of the things that he's going to do, and we just want to know, how do you consume content? Because even in my life, I used to be a voracious reader of books, and now I listen to Audible books. I mean, I still buy books if it's something special. But I listen primarily to Audible books, and I listen to podcasts. And so that's how I consume information now. And it's very different from where I was just, say, 10 years ago. So we'd like to know what you guys are doing. So Goodell-Con, yeah, your ears were ringing. We were talking about your auction purchases. So I didn't get this whole story. What's going on here, Holy? But the
Something
spoofs
they did yesterday.
It's what?
So our content quiz is at quiz.agkmedia.studio if you want to go there. Fill that out for us.
I'll put that in the quiz. Media.studio. Correct? Just making sure. Yeah. So you can go there and enter the quiz. So did you hear the rest of the story?
Well, that's where it started, right there.
Okay. Knight in shining armor. Okay. And then what?
That's all I know.
Oh, okay. So is this something I need to be worried about, Hilly? Yeah, okay. Longway's asking the question right there. Longway says, what spoofs? What's going on?
Qu'est-ce qui spoofs?
¿Cómo que eres? Spoofs. All right. So here's the deal. Let's open this page up right there. Here's the deal. So we covered the committee hearing on Thursday night from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Mountain Time, at 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And they announced the second hearing, the second televised or made available to the public hearing. That hearing starts at 10 o'clock on Monday. And it's going to go all day. Literally, it's going to go till 5 p.m. at night. They'll take every couple of hours, they'll take some kind of break, either to, recess, they'll recess. And one of them will be for lunch. But they plan to go till 5 o'clock. And so, although we could do that, we didn't see a reason if it's going to be, we'll watch it because it's going to be covered on all the media, right? Everybody's covering it. So we didn't feel like we need to, especially for that length of time. If you feel different and you can guarantee that it's going to be 100 people watching it with us, then I might change my mind. But here's the other problem. The other problem is that the Fenn case is being heard in the Santa Fe County District 1 Court on Monday, starting at there's a docket call at 8:30, but that's for the principals, the judge and the principals. And then the open court, the open hearing will start at 9 o'clock. I plan to be there, and my plan is I'm going fishing up on the Rio Grande tomorrow, and then I'm going to stay the night in Santa Fe, get up early. Well, not early, but I mean get up, go to the court hearing. And my expectation is that hearing's going to be done by the big part of the hearing. What they're going to do with Mr. McCracken's claim will be done by the afternoon. There is a second day's worth of hearing, but again, my estimation of this case is that they're going to dismiss McCracken's claim or deny his claim And then it just becomes a boring probate hearing of um, everybody agreeing on the contents of the will. That's what it boils down to. And the only one, there are no remaining claims. So it's just a matter of Zoe saying, yes, we agree. Yes, we agree. So it gets pretty boring after that. Not that it's very exciting with McCracken's claim, but he does have to make his case in one way or the other. And if the court goes for it, now remember, this is not a jury trial. This is a hearing, and the judge makes all the decisions. You make your case to the judge, and they'll both McCracken. Oops, do you get out just so you flip over?
Switch places. I'm supposed to be on this side.
Okay, all right, all right. I'm not going to argue with you on that one. So McCracken will make his case as to why his claim should be considered. Summer will make the case against it. He'll argue against it, and then the judge will have to make a decision. And there's 3 or 4 places the judge could make a decision, whether or not McCracken filed his claim on time, whether or not his case is rational, meaning, part of it claims that Forrest hid the treasure in New Mexico. There is evidence that has been accepted by federal courts saying that it was hidden and found in Wyoming. And so at each one of those places, McCracken's case can be denied and he could be excused from the hearing. And then after that, since there are no other claims, it'll be a standard probate case. So what I'm planning to do is I'm going to fish on the Rio Grande on Sunday, and then Monday afternoon I'm headed up to the Pecos to do some fishing up there. So
here's Hooley's explanation.
Okay. A bad character stealing other people's names, pics, and voices and saying yucky stuff in chat. Wow. Well, if you see if you see that person in our room, Hooley, you just bang him with that big old blue wrench of yours. So feel free. Okay. C-SPAN, Mary Green. C-SPAN doesn't always cover it. You can count, but as that link that I gave you here, I'll do it again. Hang on. So I'm going to give you a link. I'll put that in the chat room. That's where you can see where all the hearings are going to be, right? Just mark that location, and that's where the hearings are going to be. And this is the House Committee website. You can see it up here. And that'll tell you when each of the hearings is going to take place. And you can watch it on YouTube without any interference from the media with commercials and things like that. Now, C-SPAN doesn't do commercials. And you can watch it on there, but it's just as easier for you to watch it on your, on the YouTubers. So I think that's pretty cool that you can get that kind of information like that. Also, you can take a look at the past hearing here. This is the one that we did on the 9th. Okay.
Did I tell everybody welcome, especially to our new viewers, anybody who's joined us since we started the News and Views program? Welcome and thank you for joining us. And we hope that you subscribe and share this video series with your friends, family, and anybody you know who's interested in chatting about the news.
So that's interesting. So Doc says he understands that much of the Pecos, he or she, of the Pecos is closed because of the fire danger. Ugh. Wow.
It's possible.
It's possible, but
There's lots of fires.
Let me check that out, see if there's any. I will check it out. And if that's true, then I will likely go back up to the Rio Grande to get some fishing. I have yet to be on a fishing trip this season. It's going to be my first of the season. So I'm really looking forward to it. Doc, if you have a link with any information related to whether or not the Pecos is closed, I would appreciate it. Just post in the chat room and I'll go check it out before I make it.
Post a link in the chat room because he's not a wrench carrier of a wrench.
You know what you can do? Doc, if you send a text message to 505-750-2744. Just send that link if you have one. I mean, don't go out of your way. Okay. Let's see. Where else are we going from here?
Next.
Personal news.
Personal news. So we're still in Arizona. Still visiting with Mom. She's progressing. She started using her left leg this week, so that was very exciting. And they are, working with her every day in physical therapy and occupational therapy, and she's moving right along. So we're hopeful that before the end of July, she'll be home. That's our hope.
The end of July?
Before the end of July, we hope she'll be home.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very positive. So how much longer do you expect to stay in Arizona after she gets home? Any ideas or any plans?
Not yet. We're going to play that by ear. My brother is going to help with making those decisions about home health care and all of that, and then deciding which bedroom mom is going to be sleeping in, and all of that. So, don't know yet.
So how do you feel about her progress?
I think it's going very well. I read a lot about stroke victims and how they can continue to progress for the rest of their lives.
Mm.
Whereas if it was something like dementia or Alzheimer's, they just continue to get worse.
Mhm.
So, if you had to choose which one to get, it's hard, but it's better than it could have been.
Well, the other thing too is it's all a bit of a lesson for us. Not that we're benefiting by this happening, but it certainly has caused me to rethink, the things that I have to think about in the latter half of my life, in order to make sure that should something like this happen to me, not that I'm trying to make it about myself, but I've researched it, and I've spoken to my my primary care physician at the VA hospital. I'm glad I had that conversation with him. So it helps me.
And Hula, yes, she's aware of what's going on with with her body. She kind of zoned it out in the first part of the recovery, but she's since started to pay more attention to the left side.
Good. Do you think that's kind of what it takes, is you start focusing on it to help it?
That plus the therapy. If you're interested in therapies for people who are recovering from stroke, there's all kinds of great videos on YouTube that show the different exercises, and a lot of them they're using with her. So it gives you a lot of reference for what's going on.
Okay, so I've been promising for a month. Thank you for that. Thank you for that update.
Yeah.
I'm promising for a month that I was going to share pictures with John Miller and John Robinette. And so the first ones I'm going to show is, you just got a new content quiz response.
Yay.
Let me see if I can do it this way.
quiz.agkmedia.studio.
Yeah. So I don't know whether you remember.
Porcupine.
If you guys follow me on Instagram, I had this bunny that was this. I shouldn't call him a bunny. He's a rabbit, right? I've had this rabbit that started kind of hanging out in my backyard, and he was living, and still maybe, I haven't seen him for a couple of days, was living under my storage unit, where I keep my
Tools, yard tools.
Yard unit. And then about 3 days later, another one appeared, and they were both kind of having like, well, this is interesting. We had a little family going on. Anyway, I mentioned it on a show. I think I shared a picture on Instagram. And John Miller, who just said something in the room. Here, let me bring that up. We'll kill two birds with one.
He's talking about his stroke recovery.
Oh, still has numbness, and my left foot still feels like I have sand in my shoe. Oh, interesting. How many years ago did that happen, John? I mean, when did that happen? So anyway, John sent me this picture of the porcupine that was wandering around the back of his yard, just to kind of share in the experience, I guess is the best way to describe it. And then
it's kind of like a cat who got in a fight with a cactus.
Well, so I was watching a show the other night, or was it on YouTube? And it was this young Native American man, and he was showing his. Oh, no. It was on that thing where they have people living up north.
Thing where the people living up north.
It's on the Discovery Channel.
He's so specific.
Oh my God. Anyway,
And
one
you
of the
run a
characters.
news show?
It's a reality. No, it's a reality thing. It's the Frozen North or North of Ice or I'll never remember it.
Well, it's not Ice Road Truckers, right?
No, it's not.
That's the only one I know the name of.
No.
I'm
Oh,
back to
They'll
driving
just
now.
tell me now.
There you go.
Anyway, he was showing them because they collect them. You know those moccasins that we just saw that were made with porcupine quills.
Oh,
And he shows how they collect them, and it was really interesting because I'd never. How do you collect them? Because the way you normally collect them is you bump into a porcupine. They say he can shoot them out at you. That's not true. They have little hooks on the end of them, and they'll stick to you. And they're hard to get, and they're painful to get out. Not that I ever had the experience, but the way they do it is they take a piece of styrofoam, and they just kind of push it against the porcupine, and it pulls out the quills. Now he replaces them, but they use that to make jewelry from. I thought it was really interesting. What the heck is the name of that program? Guys, tell me what the name.
replaces them? How do you replace
Oh, the
the
porcupine replaces. They grow back.
Oh,
So he has a constant flow of.
what a very weird animal.
Yeah, some people. It is a strange animal. You kind of wondered how did it get to that point? I mean, what was it about evolution that said like we need this guy with these pointy
I'm
things?
telling you, a cat got in a fight with a cactus.
It's we need a cactus that's on the move. Let's get a cactus that can move around.
Well, let's get a cactus and call it Oscar Mike.
Oscar Mike. You've been hanging around with me too long.
I know.
Okay, I just closed that window again. So now let me go to these photos that John Robinette had shared with me. And these are pictures that John had taken when he was I'm going to do them by date modified so I can get them in order. When he was in Ukraine, and see, I've avoided saying the Ukraine anymore.
Yay, good job.
So this is a photograph. I'm going to do these one at a time so that I can do them there. This is a photograph of the Black Sea from his hotel in Yalta. And Yalta is, and I have some photos, some other things I'm going to share with you. Yalta is in the Crimea. So when he was there in 2000, it was likely by that time that the Ukraine had broken off from Russia, but it wasn't until 2014 that Russia retook over the Crimea. So this was 2000. It was the Ukraine, and you could still visit there. Well, I mean, you can visit there. I mean, as of 2014, if you were to visit Yalta today, you'd effectively be in a war zone and putting yourself at risk. So let me take that down. Let me show you a couple of things. Did I save them? Was I smart enough to save them here? Hang on just a sec.
Hanging on for a second,
Hanging on
but not any longer than that. Okay, moving on.
Okay, I tried. Wait, we're still going. So this is a photograph of the hotel in which the Yalta Conference was held. And the Yalta Conference took place in February of 1945, and it was between Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin. And they were kind of figuring out, this is a terrible way to put this because it happened, how the world was going to, how these three were going to divide up the spoils because they were the allies. The Axis powers were Germany, Italy, and Japan. By that time, Italy had just kind of gotten out of the Axis, and Germany was close to falling as a result of the Russians moving in from the east, and the Allied forces, UK, US, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, moving in from the west, closing in on Germany from both sides. So they had this last conference in Yalta, and this was directly before President Roosevelt passed away, and President Truman became president because he was president by the time we dropped the first bomb on Hiroshima in August of 1945. Germany surrendered in, Hitler committed suicide in April 15th, if I remember correctly, of 1945, and Germany surrendered a few days later. But by that time, if I remember correctly, Roosevelt had passed away, and Truman, his vice president, was president. Oh, here it is. I saved it as a photo. That's why. So there they are sitting together at the Yalta conference. And Roosevelt had suffered from polio when he was a child. So he used to have to be wheeled around. And where they'd set up these pictures is they would take him out of his wheelchair and they would put him in the chair. Then he'd take the picture. And then afterwards, he would be put back into his wheelchair. But if you look at those arches right there, I'm going to go back and you can see there's all the arches that they're sitting in front of at that hotel that John was at that time. So these are some other pictures. And again, you have to remember these were taken in 2000. And this was in Kyiv, which is the capital city, which is further north and west of Yalta, where we're looking at. And I thought I had a map. Let's see. Hang on. Yeah. Okay. So this is kind of a map of the current day period. Yalta is right here in the Crimea. That island there, it's not quite an island, is the Crimea. And that area, as you're going to see in the maps that we're going to look at in just a little bit, belongs to Russia right now. Russia took over the Crimea along with the Donbass right up here. Back in 2014 and 2015, as you'll see in the other map. But Yalta is right down here. And you can see why this area is so important, because the only area that they can ship out of right now, Kyiv, out of the Ukraine, is in the Odessa area. And that's because the Odessa leads into the Black Sea. And then in Istanbul right here, you'll see this one channel. And that channel leads into the Sea of Marmara. And then there's another channel down here, and that leads to the Aegean Sea and then to the Mediterranean. And that's the route that they use to ship all the grain that comes out of Ukraine. So you can see why Russia wants this area here so that it can control the shipments. And that's one of the big economic issues that's occurring right now that we're going to talk about later. But that picture that we saw from John was made right there from Yalta that leads, and that's the view that he showed us of the Black Sea that leads into through Istanbul. And you can understand why Istanbul is such a key city in history. Simply because it is basically the primary city between the West here and the East, what they refer to as the East, not far East like China, but Eastern Europe. And so it became very important. And the relationship between the Black Sea, the Aegean, and the Mediterranean is important because that's how they get it around. Plus, it leads down the biggest consumers of grain from Ukraine are the Middle Eastern countries. So they're the biggest consumers of all the grain. We do get some in the US and then in Western Europe, but the biggest consumers, because they have no way to produce it, they don't have enough water to produce it, are the Mideastern countries. So little geography lesson for you guys. Okay, so
this is, you have to participate in the geography bee.
Yeah, in case, so if somebody asks you, right, why is Yalta so important in the grand scheme of contemporary politics? So this is John, again, 2000, and he's standing next to his Lada. And the Lada was the Lada was an attempt at the Russians building something like the German Volkswagen. And it was the car for everybody. And I rode in one in
That's why they made a lot of them.
They did make a lot of them.
Lada.
From they were made from the late 70s all the way into the early 2000s. And they got better. But back at this time, well, maybe by this time that John got into it, I got in one in 87 when I was visiting Moscow on assignment. And it rattled, it shook, the shifter always made grinding noises. It drove, and they had, I don't know what the suspension was, but have you ever been on something that's suspension and it's so soft it just goes like that whenever you even
like
move
a waterbed?
So it had a reputation as being kind of the Russian version of a car. And I don't know how to describe it any better. It was like if you ever imagined Russians developing a car, the Lada that was That was it. And I was with a woman who was assigned to me during this project, who worked for the military of foreign. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I later found out she actually worked for the SVU, um, but she was
Special Victims Unit.
no, that's not. It's their version of state security. Anyway, she was assigned to me to make sure that I got out to all these locations. And I think I've told you this in the past. I was on assignment on behalf of the Central Intelligence Agency, who was putting together a documentary because it was 1988 when President Reagan visited Russia as part of the whole process towards détente, and and he didn't know anything about Russia. He just kept referring to it as the evil empire, but he didn't know anything about it. So the agency sent a whole bunch of us to Russia to collect documentary style B-roll so that they could put a movie together so that President Reagan and First Lady Nancy Reagan could watch before they made this trip to Russia so that they would be able to learn something about it. So it was an interesting little experience here. There's another war memorial in Kyiv. Very nice. And it's probably still there. Now, some of these war memorials were actually war memorials put up by the Russians after World War II because Ukraine was significantly important to the Russians, not only their defense of Russia from the Germans, but their counteroffensive that drove the Germans back through Ukraine. And what was terrible is that when the Russians were being backed up through Ukraine and further back into the Russian main area, they burned everything. It was one of those slash and burn things so that the Germans didn't have any resources. Then when the Germans went, and then the Germans came through and they committed mass atrocities. Then on the way back, the Germans burned everything, committed more mass atrocities, and the Russians went through all the way. And I think that's by the time the Russians got to Berlin, they were very, angry at I don't know how else to describe it. They weren't very nice. They committed their own set of atrocities in Germany as they went back through. And I can understand it's one thing to fight a war soldier to soldier. It's another thing when every opportunity you get, you involve civilians. And that's the danger that always comes with European wars. And that's what's happening in some of those eastern areas of Ukraine where the Russians have taken over. They're destroying housing. Their plan is basically, and they admitted their plan is basically to leave as much rubble as possible. That's how they put it. Not rubles, but rubble. Hey, here's the
Barney and Betty and Bam Bam.
Yeah, Kyiv Opera House, beautiful. And I think it's still up. So here's a great display of Russian military weapons. Unfortunately, it didn't come out. Let me see if I can scrunch this out. But that helicopter. So you see an armored carrier on one side. There's these tend to be through kind of contemporary through. If it was 2000, contemporary through Afghanistan. Because the Russians were there for almost 10 years. But that helicopter is famous only because people bought a bunch of them. I say we, Americans bought them, but movie companies bought them, and they use them in movies whenever they have to do kind of the Russian attack scene. It's called the Mi-24, and Mi stands for Mikoyan. That's the factory, the industry that builds them. That particular Mi-24 model is called the Hind because it has I don't know, the Europeans call it the Hind, but you can tell the difference because it has those two little, I don't know how to describe them, I guess the two little boobies right here. That's very distinctive to this model, but it is a monster of an attack aircraft. It is feared by, it's a very capable ground attack aircraft. Here's what it looks like when it's not on display. Oops, no, that's not what it looks like. Let me see. I thought I had a picture of it, but I guess not. Nope, same picture. Okay, sorry. But if you ever see a movie and it has the Russian as either bad guys or good guys, they fly this helicopter. And it has machine guns, it has rockets, it has all kinds of weaponry on it, and it's armored, so it can take a hit. It's a heavy, heavy helicopter, which is why it has those 8 blades, I think it is. So interesting aircraft. So here's a picture of Kyiv. Let's see if did I do an extra one? Oops. So downtown Kyiv and another one of its monuments. But you can see it's a beautiful European city. I hope a lot of that is still there. And then there's John in front of what looks like a house out in the country outside of Kyiv, with the what do you call that stuff? Not the Brits.
Grass roof.
It's not grass. It's wheat stuff.
Oh, wheat stuff.
Yeah, look at that. So Godelkon. So he must have been Fort Bliss. Was that one of the armor units? Godelkon. That's down in El Paso. So they do a lot of desert warfare training there.
I bet it's hot there today.
Yeah, $103. It was hot here today. We went up to 101. Okay, let me go back to
Still 110 here.
110. Are you serious? Wow, you don't even need a grill for cooking at
And
that.
it's 6:45 at night. So, yeah.
All right, John Robinette, I finally got your pictures out. Thank you for that. And you got a little geography lesson to boot.
Where are
Okay,
we at now?
we are at
The news.
yeah. You got to talk about your giveaway.
Giveaway. All right. So tonight we're going to go back to the giveaway that we tried to do on Wednesday. We showed a drone video and we asked you for the name of a park that is represented by that drone video, and we didn't get any correct answers. So we're bringing it back. And if you can give us a correct answer, then you can have a choice of prizes, including Aunt Lucy's cookbook, Aunt Lucy's holiday recipes cookbook,
Oh, do I need to go get that?
or Live Cast Life book, or a Gypsy's Kiss, plus 2 AGK challenge coins and 2 postcards. And we're asking that if you do win one of our books and you read it, please review it on Amazon.
And Lucy's cookbooks aren't on Amazon, but our books
No,
are.
you don't need to review the cookbooks. Okay.
110. All right, let's spend a second, because I've already talked about it, the Fenn probate case.
Where's our news music?
Man,
Man, you got the roadcaster. You're in charge of the.
sorry, it's on the, I have to change. Hold on. Here, I'm going to do this just for you. I got to go bank 2. See, with a new one, I won't have to do that.
I know.
There we go.
Da, da, da.
Fenn probate case. So here's where we are with the Fenn probate case. We're no further than we were the last time we talked. I apologize, and I'm not beat up. Somebody said I was doing it on purpose. I wasn't doing it on purpose. I just forgot. Aren't you in Godelkon? Aren't you up in like the mountains in Colorado someplace? What the heck?
It's hot in Topeka.
Oh, look at it. Huli says, my 77 Buick Century had flying suspension. That's what the Yacht was. It was like one of those, like even if you weren't on rolling hills, it just felt like you were. It was,
Driving a waterbed.
yeah. That's what it felt. That's a good one. All right, let's go back to Fenn probate case here. So the actual hearing starts on Monday at, here's the Calf Canyon fire. Starting on Monday at 9:00, they'll start the hearing. They'll start with McCracken's claim, and he can file it. Now, I showed you last week, or I showed you on Wednesday, these requests for finding their findings and their conclusions of law. And I put them in a folder, and I opened them up, and I showed them to you, and then I forgot to share the link. So for those of you that were looking forward to reading these conclusions, they're pretty good reading, honestly. There's 8 pages from McCracken, and then there's, let me see, how many pages? 20 pages from Summer. And, I don't think you need, I suppose if you need some nighttime reading before you go to bed and you want something to put you to sleep, this will do it. but you hear their arguments. You know, you hear McCracken's arguments and why he believes he's entitled to some sort of settlement. And then you read, and that's the way that I would do it. I'd read McCracken's first, or this one here, McCracken's first, and then Old's second. Did I give you that information? Oh, so the old one, so the one was written by Summers, only 8 pages. The one written by McCracken is 20 pages. So when these guys make a claim, they write a whole bunch of stuff. So read it. Read McCracken's set of claims, and then see if you can figure out where is he going with this, and then read Summers' response to it. And I am going to share that right now because I promised you I would. So let's go.
La Luz. He's in La Luz washing. He's in La Luz watering his pecan trees.
Oh, yeah. So he was serious about that. So this was from last week. This is the one I want to share. Okay. So I'm sorry. I apologize for that. I completely forgot it. So you can go in and look at anyone with a link and copy link. And I'm just going to put that right in here in the chat room. So if you guys want to go look at those, you can. All right. You won't be able to edit them, but you can download them. They're PDF files. So if you want to download them and have a real good time, you can do that. Okay.
Very good.
So that's where we are. You should be grateful we're at the news. I know you were kind of worried we were going to get there.
It only took an hour. Oh.
Mass shooting update. I was trying to see. Hang on. Talk to people for just a minute.
So
Toby,
this at me like I'm supposed to know what to talk about when you're just like, say something. I'm used to just sitting here and waiting my turn to talk.
Okay,
So
all
it's like, I don't know.
I know what you're talking about. Okay. Well, let's just do a quick mass shooting update. There have been 4 publicized mass shootings since our last meeting on Wednesday. The one in Maryland, Smithsburg, which is near you have to see how Maryland is shaped, but it's connected to West Virginia, believe it or not, because of the way that it's shaped. Apparently, the shooter lived in West Virginia but worked at a manufacturing plant in Maryland and had put in a full day's of work. Got off at 2:30, went outside to his Mitsubishi, pulled out brought back a semi-automatic handgun, and started shooting up the place. And he killed. They say, let me see the last number I counted. They said killed 3 and injured 3. I think one of the injured has since died. So killed 4 and injured 4. He then got into a gun battle with police, and he was wounded himself. So he's in the hospital under watch. So, yeah.
The grocery deal of the week was, Fry's had strawberries for 97 cents for a 16-ounce container. So it was pretty good.
Really?
Deal.
Wow. Those big fat California strawberries?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I wish I lived closer to you. I'd just go pick some up. Okay, that's it for mass shooting updates. We don't have anything going on, but we do have a story.
March for Our Lives protests. Thousands of demonstrators took to the streets in hundreds of protests across the country today to push lawmakers to take action on gun violence in the wake of recent mass shootings in Uvalde, Texas, and Buffalo, New York. Protesters have turned out to more than 450 rallies nationwide, with the largest gathering taking place in Washington, D.C., which started at noon and ended at 2 p.m. And there you see in the middle David Hogg, who was, of course, at the school in Florida where the mass shooting took place a few years back. And now he's running this March for Our Lives organization. So
he must have turned over the head of the organization to somebody else because he's being introduced as sitting on the board of directors. So he may have turned it over to a professional, somebody who's knows how to run a nonprofit, but he's still there and participating. You can see that's in front of the White House there. So he was at the White House version. There was an arrest made because during the moment of silence, there was a gentleman. I'm hesitant to call him a gentleman. There was a person standing by, and he yelled out loud, "I have a gun," during the moment of silence, and it panicked everybody. And there's some video of the panicked, and somebody very wisely got on the microphone and started yelling, "False alarm! There's nothing." They tackled him to the ground. He wasn't armed. He was just dressed in slacks and a white shirt, and just decided to
Be stupid.
Yeah, and
I bet he goes up to the TSA and tells them he has a bomb too.
yeah, exactly. Well, it wasn't very
Smart
smart
guy.
because they do show him being arrested and taken away. So it wasn't it was just a stupid thing to do. But I thought the smartest thing that I saw and it sounded like a kind of a woman's voice, and she was telling them, stop. There's nothing. I mean, and she was yelling into the microphone at the top of her lungs, and they literally just like stopped and turned around. But by that time, they went back to having the protest. There was a lot of people there. So
Crazy.
hey, Ord, what are you up to? So what do you think? Are we going to make some headway with organizations like that March for Our Lives?
I think that it helps because the media shows the numbers of people who care about this. And, when you see those pictures and those videos of how many people are coming out and they want this change, Trump always talked about the size of the crowds and the ratings and all of this. And people kind of said, oh, well, that's dumb to care about that. But that's really what the media cares about, because that's where the money is
Right.
Who's showing up, who cares about this, and when they see the numbers of people who want this, and maybe they start getting sponsors, and corporations are starting to ask for these changes as well. CEOs of different corporations are asking for these changes, and they're all jumping on board. They're all saying, do this, do this, do this. This is what we want. If Congress doesn't listen, then they can't get reelected. I mean, they've been doing this, not doing anything about guns for many, many years because they were afraid of losing their jobs. We have to turn the tables on that and say, if you do not pass legislation on gun safety and gun regulations, then you won't get your job back and you'll be out of here. So that's the only thing that's going to do it.
Well, I think it's reasonable to ask people to gather in when they agree on some sort of direction, to let the people that we vote for know. Because between this, our ability to protest, and our ability to vote, that's the only way we're going to change things, Whoa, hold on.
Was that me or you?
No, that was me.
Oh, okay.
Because I wanted to share a quickie on the Belmont.
Oh,
We had a winner, Mo Donegal, written by Irad Ortiz Jr. So our Kentucky Derby winner came in fourth. So congratulations to Mo Donegal.
there you go.
Let's see. So I do want to talk about this. Thank you for that report of the March for Our Lives, I thought. Okay, so you guys know that on Thursday evening, we watched the hearing that was conducted by the House committee that's investigating the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. And I thought it was pretty well done, and I wanted to talk about some of the takeaways from it. Generally speaking, these are things that I saw that you have to be ready for, and I think that's a lot of this is going to start coming out in these public hearings that they're having during the month of June. So the first thing is, it was obvious to me during all the presentation of evidence that they're going to hold Donald Trump responsible for the attack that took place, that everything that he did led up to that attack, and he encouraged it. And they show the video where, video clips. If you guys didn't watch it with us, you would see the video clips where he encouraged it. And you can tell that's the direction they're heading. Now, the problem with that is they don't have the jurisdiction that would allow him, short of impeachment, but he's not a president, so they can't impeach him. They don't have the authority or the jurisdiction to do anything about it. They can provide, as a result of all these depositions that they're taking, they can provide evidence. And it turns out that the depositions are kind of fitting in with one another. So they don't take just one word, what the person of, they don't just take the word of a single person. It has to be backed up by several others who agree with that, right? That's the only way you do it when all you have is depositions without any real evidence. And part of the real evidence would have been the I don't know, several 150 160 minutes worth of telephone records that are missing. Kind of reminds me of the Watergate. What was her name? Rosemary. So I thought that's pretty obvious. They are definitely going after Donald Trump as the cause of all this. How the committee plans to tell the story. So the way they seem to be laying it out is that they're going to start with what happened, why it happened, and then who was involved to make it happen. And that part of the story, that's what to me happened on Thursday. They kind of set the ground rules. Here's where we're going with all this. And then they're going to lay out the rest. And again, they're going to have several of these hearings. Now, these hearings are just to let the public know what we know. And they're going to substantiate it with all these videos of people doing depositions. They had Bill Barr doing a deposition surrounded by 4 different lawyers. I thought he was at some kind of conference or something, but that was his deposition. And he had 4 lawyers there to make sure that that he was doing whatever he had to without jeopardizing himself. And he didn't. He told the truth, and he did it. He did so without jeopardizing it, because as much as I wasn't a fan of Bill Barr, it was certainly enough to vindicate his behavior on that day, plus to indict other people. I mean, and again, that's going to be backed up with other depositions. They are also going to have live the 2 gentlemen from Georgia who had the conversation with Donald Trump when he said, you just need to find another 11,780 votes, which is by how much he lost Georgia. Now, that wouldn't have significantly changed, even if they had found it. It wouldn't have changed the outcome of the election, because he still wouldn't have had enough electoral votes to have won it, neither popular vote or electoral votes. But you can tell that what they're going to do is, and the other thing that surprised me is I saw the list of people whom they've deposed, and there's several hundred, some of whom are what I would call not Trump loyalists. They worked for Donald Trump, and they've all come in. Now, there's some that haven't, and they've been indicted. As a matter of fact, Peter Navarro was arrested in an airport someplace and taken into custody. And he was surprised by that, because the DOJ filed a contempt case against him, and he was indicted by a grand jury, and he was arrested. He had to pay bail to get out. But that's always a surprise, right? The third thing I saw is they're not going to let the people that supported this event, whether by providing guided tours the day before, or making comments about how this was the right thing to do for the country, etc. There were a lot of Republicans who are associates of these people on the committee that effectively committed crimes of sedition. And they're going to have to hold them responsible. And I'll repeat this. The committee itself can't charge someone. They don't have the authority to charge someone. Whatever their findings are, they have to turn over to the Department of Justice. Now, one of the challenges between this a committee and the Department of Justice is the Department of Justice is working on this as well. Not only are they working on all the people that they've arrested from the January 6th terrorist attack, I think they've indicted and charged and arrested 800, and they still have somewhere between 500 and 1,000 to go. And that's just from January 6th. Well, the other thing, there have been in the past, and there have been arguments over this between the two of them, between the committee doing its work and, as a result, interfering with the Department of Justice doing its work. Because there are times where if somebody is deposed in the committee and they say something that would help the case of that the Department of Justice is making, they have a hard time getting that in front of a grand jury who will make all these decisions. The DOJ will not work as fast as this committee, even though the committee's been there since July of, the committee's been at work since July of 2020, right? So we're going, or 2021. So we're going on 1 year's worth of work here.
2021.
Yeah, 2021.
Because it didn't happen till 2021.
Is that right? Yeah, it didn't happen until January 6th of 2021. But there were a number, and I called them defenders simply because it wasn't, I couldn't know what else to call them. I don't want to call them seditionists or traitors or things. They were working on the wrong side of this question. And as a result, it is very likely they committed an act of sedition, meaning they worked with others to bring down the federal government. And that's against the law. You can't do that. And so they're going to go after them. There's this interesting clip of Louis Gohmert, who's a member of the House of Representatives from Texas, and he said, you can't do anything more as a Republican, and he made it an issue of Republican. You can't even lie to Congress or the FBI anymore. And you have to think to yourself, do you hear what you just said?
Anymore? I mean,
yeah.
You weren't ever supposed to do that.
Exactly. That's the point. And so that's the perspective of some of these Republican members of Congress, that they weren't lying. They weren't committing sedition. They were just trying to, quote, help, unquote. And you don't help with sedition without being charged with it eventually. So the other thing that they seem to cover a great deal, and they had much more information than I had seen up until this point, of the indictment, and I'm not using that in a legal way, just the indictment of the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, and how much communication they had with Trump through his secondaries, and how they were a part of all this. They were basically the legal arm, the military arm of this effort to not only support the seditious action, the attack on the Capitol, but then to gather up the people they held responsible for it, like Nancy Pelosi. Their plan was to take Nancy Pelosi and several other members of Congress, leaders in Congress. They were going to bring them up onto those stairs that we see on the West Portico. They were going to hold a kangaroo court, try them, and then they were going to punish them up to and including execution for for what they believed they did. That was the plan, and that's why the Oath Keepers were there with a collection of weapons just outside of Washington, D.C., because Washington, D.C., doesn't allow that kind of weapon in Washington, D.C., and there were road checks because it was part of this was expected. So they put him in Arlington, in a hotel in Arlington, Virginia, which, for those of you that know the area, are right over the bridge in Washington. And the plan was to, once they took over the Capitol, bring those weapons in. If they weren't getting support from the military, because Trump had promised them that he would tell the military to take over, that he was going to declare a national emergency and use the military to take over. Well, of course, never got that far. The other thing that impressed me was, as a documentary maker and a filmmaker, lifelong documentary maker and filmmaker, was the quality of the production value. They kept playing clips, and I kept expecting, they're going to blow this, or it's not going to play on time, or it's going to be out of speed. It wasn't. Everything they did.
No, because they had a television producer running the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, did they?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the way you do that. You get a TV producer to do
That's
it for
right.
you. And they said more is to come. So here's what's going to happen over the next several months. Number one, what's going to happen is they will continue to do these public hearings. Now, they're also doing hearings behind closed doors. And the attorneys that work for the committee are continuing to do depositions. And then there's another group of people who is taking all this information and boiling it down into something that is understandable in the form of a book. Because that's eventually they have to produce their required. If you establish a special committee like this, you are required by the rules of the special committee to produce a report. And I mentioned the other night, you can buy the Watergate report, you can buy the 9/11 report, you can buy the Kennedy assassination report, you can buy the Oklahoma City report, because all of those were special committees that did this kind of research. A lot of time, now, at the same time, the Department of Justice is doing their job from a legal perspective. That doesn't well, it never results in a quote report, unquote. It results in an indictment. And the indictment could be for one person or it could be for many people. So the one that where the Proud Boys were indicted, they indicted 7 of them at the same time on the same indictment. The same with the Oath Keepers. So, but it's not a report. It's the DOJ's. It's a legal report. It's an explanation to the court of why the DOJ has brought an indictment to the grand jury and is presenting it to the court. So yeah, that's readable. The book and it could be multiple volumes. There was one of them I'm trying to remember. I think it was Watergate. I think the Watergate was 2 volumes, and they were thick, thin paper. They used very thin paper and small print volumes like that. But everything that they wanted, they lay out the research, they lay out their findings, they lay out the results of the depositions and interviews, and then they pull that all together in what they believed happened. And that's the most that this committee can do. They can't charge anybody. They don't have the authority to do that, right? They might be able to find some of their members in some form of contempt for not showing up. They can do that. And they might be able to censure some of the members that they have evidence supported the whole idea of a coup. And we know there are some of those, and it'll come out in the depositions. But what's going to be interesting is a lot of these depositions that I already conducted. The gentleman from Georgia, for example, that had the conversation that they recorded from Trump asking them to find, another mysterious 11,000 votes, that they said there are no, they had to prove over and over again there was nothing wrong with the election in Georgia. But he had that conversation, and that's coercion to fraud, coercion to fraud of an election. And so they're going to be there, and they're going to testify in front of this hearing and in front of the America that this is what happened, and this is how they felt about it. Raffensperger just won his both the Republicans. Not that I'm a big fan of Republicans, but the Secretary of State just re-won his nomination on the Republican side for Secretary of State, and the governor won his renomination for governor on that side, and they're going to both be in front of this committee. So you can expect that we're going to see hearings through June, maybe through July, but they've got to have a report out by September. Because that's what they committed to. So the full report, and that report is being worked on right now. You're not going to have a full report of that size, those dimensions, and not already be working on it. Yeah. So it doesn't, John, it doesn't mean that they're not getting justice. They've done very well in getting justice for 800 of the 1,500 or so that were involved in serious transgressions during the attack on the Capitol. But they have a higher level. The committee just has to write a report. The DOJ has to prosecute, and there are no small cases by the time they get to the DOJ. They're all important cases, and the DOJ can't afford to take a case to court that it doesn't expect to win. And these cases of sedition, there is a history in the courts of the United States not allowing a case of sedition to win. It's happened in Michigan and it happened in Georgia, and that's within the past 20 years. They were both militant groups who planned a seditious act. They had the evidence, and the court didn't agree. And so part of it is the DOJ, especially if there's a chance. You got to remember, there's a chance that the DOJ is going to have to prosecute a former president of the United States of America. Well, you don't want to go to that prosecution with any chance that you don't have the evidence that supports that prosecution. Now, I don't know if you remember, they used to call what's his name, the Teflon Don. It wasn't Teflon Donald Trump. It was one of the mafiosos that they couldn't get anything to stick to him. It took them years. It's not 80. They called him the Teflon Don because they could never get any charges to stick to him, and they finally got him. It took them, 7 or 8 tries. But in our experience, Donald Trump is the most has committed acts that are, in my opinion, beyond the pale, and has never spent a day in a court, much less in a jail. I mean, that's the reputation he has. He kind of sees himself as infallible, and that's a very dangerous place for a president or former president to be. Infallibility. You can't do anything to me. And I'm sure that on January 6th, that's what he felt. He felt he was infallible, and that he's got a bunch of his followers that are going to take over the counting of the electoral votes, and that he was going to get a second term as president. In that case, he would no longer be president. He would be an authoritarian at best and a dictator at worst. And he didn't think there was any consequences for any of that he could do all of that. And if he failed, I don't think today, if you were to tell Donald Trump that there is a chance he's going to be wearing an orange suit soon, I think he would laugh in your face, because he's never had to in the past. And I think that's a very dangerous place for any politician to be or believe, because there are politicians out there that aren't Donald Trump that are behaving in a way that, to me, implies they're not afraid of ever being punished for acting like a dictator. So that's our challenge. The challenge is this is not, if you really want to maintain your democracy, if you believe in the Constitution, you've got to do everything you can to protect it. Because if it's as simple as your vote, or talking about it, or having a live stream, or whatever, writing to your members of Congress, we're a hair's breadth away from losing our democracy. You will have no freedom, and likely it will end up in some form of a civil war. And if you think you're safe now, if it turns into a civil war, and you're on the wrong side of whoever's winning that war, there's darkness ahead. I don't know how else to describe it. We're that far. Okay, I would like to thank Lauren West for getting the truth to others. Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate that.
Where's her air horn? Applause. What's
okay,
going
wait. Okay,
Come
hold
on.
on. But you want
Run the board, man.
air horn and applause. Okay, it's in for long way. Another air horn. Oops, no. Air horn. And applause. Okay, that's good. Thanks, guys. We appreciate that.
This is the name of the man who he was this. Let's see. He was also served as a producer for some of the network's most successful news programs like 2020, Nightline, and Good Morning America. And he's helping the committee with the planning of the hearings and their presentation. The committee has hopes of putting on hearings that don't look like traditional congressional proceedings, and instead are multimedia presentations that weave a narrative outlining the committee's findings.
Well, honestly, I was very impressed. Being a media kind of guy, I was impressed. at what they were doing. Okay, so I'm going to let this go for now. I plan to watch as much as I can of the hearings. If there are any more evening hearings, I will make sure that we see them. But we're going into these full day things now, and I'm not going to make anybody. You have to watch them at your own choice. But keep in mind that these are all designed to inform you, so that you can make a rational decision about what happened. And you can make a rational argument when somebody says, oh, no, it wasn't like it was a peaceful, procession to the halls of the Capitol. No, they showed the video. There was nothing peaceful about it. And what happened afterwards, and sometimes before, there was nothing peaceful. These are people who expected to take over the United States of America and call it a democracy. But if they succeeded, it wouldn't be. They would have shot democracy right in the foot, and democracy would have limped off the Capitol grounds.
And here we are.
So if it was propaganda, it wouldn't have any basis in fact, Wave Seeker. Now, you can ignore the facts and you can call it propaganda, but propaganda doesn't have any basis in fact. Propaganda is something that, repeated loud enough and often enough, is believed. That's how the Germans worked. That's how all dictators work. That's how all authoritarians work, whether it was Mussolini, Stalin, Hitler, or a lot of the South Americans. A lie repeated loud enough and often enough becomes the truth. That's propaganda, when there is no basis for it. It is just loud and repetitive. That's propaganda. What we're talking about here tonight is not propaganda. These are substantiated facts. And if you want to call them propaganda, you may be believing the wrong propaganda. So that's the definition of propaganda. Pure or otherwise. There is no pure propaganda. All propaganda is impure. It is simply a lie repeated loud enough and often enough. Okay. What's next?
What's
Hey,
next?
President Biden was in New Mexico and got a surprise.
Well, he I don't know that he was too surprised. He knew what was going to happen. He was coming to New Mexico to talk about federal relief for victims of the fires and people who had been displaced from their homes and businesses because of the huge fires going on in New Mexico, still going on. Joe Biden landed in New Mexico today amid anger and frustration from wildfire survivors as he visited the state to review efforts to fight its biggest blaze in recorded history, which was started by federal officials. This was a controlled burn that got out of its territory, got out of its boundaries, and then there was another one, and they met up and they got bigger. They had baby fires, so it's not good. It's a lot. So they've offered some relief for housing through FEMA, and they are asking for more relief from Congress, which he is on board with, but of course he can't promise it because it has to be voted on. But tens of thousands of residents have been evacuated from farming villages with twice the national poverty rate, upending fragile economies where residents cut firewood and raise hay to get by. So these are poor people, and everything they had, which wasn't much to begin with, is taken away from them by these fires.
And there's no such thing as forest fire insurance.
And they are, after this has occurred now, they are stopping all controlled burns. And the fire service, the Forest Service is going to be looking at, is this still a viable method? of controlling fires in this day and age where we're constantly having fires? Or do we need to update methods here? So they are stopping it at this point, stopping controlled burns across the country until they've made some new decisions on that.
Whoops. Oh, no, not that one. Look at this. John just came into the room.
Oh.
John, dang nabbit, you missed it. We showed all your
You'll have to watch the replay.
Yeah, you're going to have to watch the replay. So Waveseeker says, I see your point, but video productions are not balanced. They're designed to promote one point of view. That's not necessarily true. In my job as a documentary maker, I found myself constantly promoting the facts, not necessarily one point of view. And I will sit down with anyone. I took the clip that they played that day of the attack. They played, it was probably 6 or 7 minutes long. Of the attack from several different cameras, including some of the members of the attacking force of that attack on the Capitol. And I would like to hear what the point of view that it's presenting that is different from what you see in front of your eyes. I don't see how anybody could look at the video from that day and say there's some sort of alternative point of view here. It's simply a bunch of people who have decided they were going to bring the Capitol down, stop the electoral count, and try the members of both the House and the Senate for malfeasance or whatever they chose. I don't see what other point of view there is when you're simply watching that video.
Yeah, because there's more than one video out there. You can watch 100 different videos taken by 100 different people, and they all show the same thing. And what, like Toby said, what other conclusion can you draw other than these people were there to destroy?
So I did want to show a couple of things. So this is a fire. This is how big the fire has grown right here. And this is south and west of us in the Gila National Forest. And I know this forest. I'm going to show you why I'm familiar with this forest. There is some good trout fishing, but it tends to be a high desert forest. And that's where the fire has spread to right now. So you can see it covers a lot of territory in that forest. I don't know if they show. Yeah. So here's I-25. If you go north, you end up in Albuquerque. This is all the Gila National Forest in this area. It has spread outside the forest and into some of those lands where they cultivate their farmlands rather than forest lands. So it's spread out of that area. But the thing that I wanted to show you is the reason I know this area is because, let me show you where we are. Here we are there we are in Bernalillo. Okay. That's my beautiful Bernalillo. And here's the Gila National Forest. It borders on, that's the Arizona New Mexico border right there. And then it goes further, and there are versions of the forest in Arizona, including the Fort Apache Reservation and the San Carlos Reservation. But one of the things that's, well, I don't want to say it's important to be one of the places I've visited, is the Cosmic Campground. And it's a dark sky site, and it's a designated dark sky site. There are no lights, right? So you don't see the lights from Albuquerque. There's no light pollution. So it's a wonderful place for astronomers to take pictures. And they've actually closed that. So I'm going to zoom this map in a little bit until you can see where the fire is. So the fire is here, and it's spreading this way. That map that I showed you before, you can see right here the connection between the what they call Gila East and Gila West, and you can see that little bridge right there under the fire. Well, if you look at that, that's that area. I point it right here. That's that area right here. So right now, the fire is south and east of the Cosmic Campgrounds, but they've closed all these roads in here. So you can't even get to the cosmic campgrounds. And I guess you probably wouldn't have the effects of dark sky if you were facing east, because you would see the flames from the fire. So it's not good to have fires. They're just terrible. We've experienced a whole bunch of them in New Mexico this year. There's fires still, and what was mentioned to me earlier is, let me go up this way so I can go. There are fires in this area right up here, and this is the Valles Caldera, which is a beautiful place. And there are fires in this area outside of Las Vegas. That's the Bear Canyon fire. Did they show it on here? Yeah, there we go. So there's these two fires there. That's Bear Canyon right there, Calf Canyon, and then the Hermit's Peak fire. And they're in the Santa Fe National Forest. And somebody mentioned that's probably why the Pecos, because here's Pecos, the town of Pecos, and that's the river along the river bank, the side of the river. My favorite fishing spot is right here in Torero. It's a beautiful, well, we won't talk fishing, right? Anyway, okay, so there's that. Thank you, President Biden. I'm sorry I missed you. I didn't find out about it until this morning. All right, catch up on Ukraine war, day 108. So from an economic perspective, there seems to be some problems. United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense said there's intense street fighting still going on in Severodonetsk. I'm going to show that in just a minute. So they keep attacking and counterattacking. They're still fighting over the city. As I said on Wednesday, Russia now occupies 20% of Ukraine. It's all on the east. And of course, some of it is the result of what they did in the Donetsk region and Crimea back in 2014. They've expanded on that. They're still not making the kind of success that they expected to make, but they're not stopping. They haven't gotten to the point where they're saying to themselves, gee, this was a really bad idea. As a matter of fact, they're doing just the opposite. They're still expecting that sooner or later, Ukraine is going to submit and say, okay, let's figure out some kind of treaty. Russians are doing crazy things like handing out Russian passports in some of these occupied territories. And they're doing, it seems like they're moving people, Ukrainians, out of these territories and into, they called them concentration camps on the Russian side of the border. And their plan is to use them as labor to rebuild these areas inside the Russian part of the battle, and bring them back to normal, for example, in Mariupol and Severodonetsk, places like that. So this, I thought, was an interesting little comment. Oops, back again. Zelensky said his country was unable to export enough food because of Russia's blockade, and the world would face an acute and severe food crisis and famine. And that's because what they export mostly is grains of all kinds, from wheat to rye to barley to corn. So that's what the Ukraine has always been known for, is its grain growth. So there is, Zelensky's been asking, now this is very different from NATO. He's been asking the European Union to allow him to enter the Union so that they could increase the level of trade, so that they could use the same monetary devices, so that they could have connections to banks outside of Ukraine, etc. He's been bugging them, and they are listening to him. They were meeting in Copenhagen this last week, and they heard a speech from him via video link, and they are considering letting him enter the European Union. Now, that's a completely different kind. That's different from NATO, because entering the UK, Germany, other NATO members can still sell weapons donate weapons to the Ukrainians, even though they're not members of the European Union. The European Union, joining the European Union is an economy strengthening move, because that's what it will do. And I don't know whether Putin tends to be threatened by anything that Europe is doing with Ukraine. So he might be just as threatened as if he became a member of NATO. But what NATO does, becoming a member of NATO, basically the NATO Rule 15 says, if one NATO country goes to war, all the other countries have to support them. So that's probably why that's not going to happen this time. It may happen at some time in the future. I think I think at some point, what the Ukraine might do is sue for peace, give Russia that eastern part that they already have, and just go in with the rest of their lives, becoming a member of the European Union and eventually a member of NATO that basically holds Russia from going any further than it already has. The Z is the way that the Russians have been marking their vehicles. They don't use Russian patches or anything like that. You'll see the Z. It does mean something. It stands for something, but I don't know what it is. I guess I should probably look that up real quickly. Let's see. What does the Z on the side of the Russian tanks mean? It says the Latin script letter Z is one of the several symbols, including V and O, painted on military vehicles in the Russian armed forces involved in the 2022. It is speculated that the Z helps task forces distinguish themselves from other forces. So they haven't. It's not like a word that they've used. They just used to identify it. There was a point in time, for example, that I know the Americans painted. Was it an O on when we were invading Iraq? We painted bright, big, I think it was O's on our tanks and trucks.
Like
They've
with targets.
Well, no, I don't. I got to remember what it was, but because their military, the symbols that represent their service connection are painted in black so that they're camouflaged. So that was a problem for some of our own pilots to identify them so that there were no friendly fire accidents, although we did have, in every war, there's friendly fire accidents. So it's still moving along. This is what the map looks like. So again, you'll see that there hasn't been a significant amount of progress. Kyiv is still protected right here. A lot of the fighting that's occurring is right here around Severodonetsk, Luhansk, Donetsk, the Donbas region here, and the Crimea, which is right down here. Remember, we talked about, was it Yalta being right here in the Crimea, was taken over in 2014. So the battle is for this area. They want to continue to move as far as they can towards Odessa, because right here, it becomes Romania and Moldova. Although Moldova doesn't have access to the sea, they want to keep Ukraine from being able to ship things out of Ukraine, its grain out of Ukraine. And remember on that other map that I showed you when we were doing our little geography lesson, Sea of Azov, the Black Sea leads to the Mediterranean, or the Aegean Sea to the Mediterranean, and then to the Atlantic. So that's why the Russians are fighting so hard to kind of control those. I think it's important that if you see these blue areas right here, those are Ukrainian armed forces, and they're holding, it seems like they're holding, that line hasn't changed since the last time, or that hasn't changed significantly in the past month. So they're doing a reasonable job of containing the Russians there. Not that it couldn't be. I mean, like I said, if they sue for peace, that's going to be the demarcation point. And Russia will now have more than Ukraine and the Donetsk. They'd have all this area from Mariupol to Kherson and all the way up to Kharkiv. So that's 20% of Ukrainians' territory. Now, it's not a good place to be. So, I got that picture of him.
What? Justin Bieber is in the news.
Yeah.
Yeah. Justin Bieber said half of his face has been paralyzed and is canceling shows until he gets better. He's been diagnosed with a viral infection. What did we say it was called?
I think I put it in there. Ramsey. Here, I'm going to have to go to the news show. I mean, the news.
Ramsey Hunt syndrome.
Ramsey Hunt syndrome.
Yeah. It it's a virus similar to, it's in the family of chickenpox, varicella, shingles, and herpes. They're all in the same family, apparently. And he is suffering from this, and it's paralyzed half of his face. There could be some damage, lasting damage, if he doesn't get proper care. So he's canceling some of his tour. Recently, his wife also has gone through some of her own medical issues. She had a mini stroke in March, and she had a hole in her heart that she was born with, and she had a blood clot that went to her brain, and they had to do surgery on her, and she's doing well now, and now it's basically her turn to take care of him. So this poor young couple has been through quite a difficult time.
A couple of months ago too, right? Didn't
He had
he?
what?
Didn't he have something else a couple of months ago, before she had her mini stroke?
Like,
I kind of remember him having something. I don't know. I'm not a pop star following kind of guy, but
well, I think my point basically is this can happen to anybody. And, money isn't going to save you from getting sick. So uh, the main point, then the most recent articles, is that they are helping each other get through this. They're, standing by each other through sickness and health. And for a young couple to be able to do that nowadays is something that's newsworthy. Unfortunately, it doesn't, a lot of people leave their significant other when things go bad, especially at a younger age. So it's good to see people who are hanging together and getting through these things with unity.
So I just found out today, as a result of the research for this thing, that he is she is, Haley, is the daughter of Stephen Baldwin of the Baldwin acting family, Alec Baldwin, all those guys, and that they met when they were still early teens, and she wanted to see him in concert, and Baldwin bought not only the concert tickets but the backstage tickets, and they met there, and they started talking, eventually got to the point of dating, but they've known each other since they were in their early teens, maybe even preteens for all I know. I'm going to put the link to the story in there because down at the bottom, I can't play it, but there is a video of him telling his fans, going on and showing what's happened to his face. So it literally is, it is paralyzed to the extent that he blinks and his left eye blinks and his right eye doesn't. And when he smiles, the left side of his face smiles and the right side doesn't. I mean, it's kind of scary. I didn't even know it. And Shelley's bugged me for, I don't know, a couple of years now, I think, to get my shingle shot, because I did have chickenpox like everybody in my age group did. And my doctor, I had my 6-month, visit with my primary care physician, and she said, have you had your shingles shot? And I said, no. And so we scheduled it for right after I get back from travels. Oh, I should mention that. So I am going to be traveling from Tuesday, June 28th to Tuesday, July 12th. It's 2 weeks. I'll be traveling 2 weeks on the East Coast to visit all the new grandbabies. So I don't know if Shelley, are you going to want to do shows?
By myself? No.
No. Yeah. So we probably won't be doing shows during that couple of weeks that I'm traveling, but I will post a lot of pictures of new grandbabies on my Instagram account. So join us. Join Instagram. Oh, wait, I have one more thing to talk about. This was, and we didn't talk about this, Shell. I'm sorry. But I wanted to go here. So I wanted to show you this picture. Okay. So this is a picture I posted to my Instagram account because a friend of mine sent it to me. This is a woman whose name is Suzanne. I'm not going to give you her last name. I don't know her. She's a friend of a friend of mine, and you've heard me talk about her in the past. My friend is Janet Bridgers. Janet I've known her since 2012. We've done 2 documentaries together. I help her with all her tech stuff. And several months ago, she came to me and she said, if you wanted to buy a recorder and you were going to make podcasts, but you didn't want to have a studio, what would you do? And I recommended a recorder to her. It was a Zoom PodTrack P4. And I didn't know what she was doing with it at the time. And then I found out later that what she wanted to do, her friend Suzanne had asked her to record her life story. And that life story included her goodbyes to her children. Because at that point in time, Suzanne had been diagnosed with terminal cancer, and she'd been diagnosed by 2 different doctors with less than 6 months to live. So she wanted to sit down with Janet, her friend, and have Janet record her backstory, which, we all kind of want to do, especially in this age of new technologies. My backstory is already on YouTube. All they have to do is look at our videos and they'll, get bored to death. So week before last, I got a call from Janet, and she said that a couple of nights before they had gone to where this all took place. Janet and others were there. And at some point, Suzanne had them mix actually, you don't mix it, you pour it. It's a prescription cocktail. And you have to drink it yourself. So she drank the cocktail herself. 15, 20 minutes later, she went to sleep. And then a couple of hours later, the coroner came in to declare her death. Right. So what impressed me so much with this story is the courage that it took for Suzanne to make that decision. But I didn't know, I hadn't followed this. When you haven't been diagnosed with a terminal case of cancer, you don't follow it. But it was interesting to me because, like all of us, well, sooner or later we get old enough to start considering these things. And so I talked to Janet, and she pointed me in the direction of how this all takes place, because it's perfectly legal. You can actually buy the prescription once you've been diagnosed by 2 different doctors with a terminal case of something. They will prescribe this thing. You can go and buy it. It's $500. They get you right until the end. You'd think they'd give it to you for free. And then when you're ready, on the day or night when you're ready, you can't do it in a hotel. You can't do it in a public place. It has to be in a place, your house, or in a home of some friends that have agreed to this. And then you take the drink, and it puts you to sleep, and you just don't wake up. And I like the idea you can choose how to go, because we've all heard the story of the suffering that Forrest Fenn's father went through, and Forrest's fear of having to deal with the same thing. So here's the deal, and Huli just asked the right question here. Is that legal? Is it legal in New Mexico, or is it legal any place else for that matter? So here's what the deal is. In New Mexico, they passed a law, and it's called the Medical Aid in Dying Law. And this is the website for the End of Life Options, newmexico.org. And so I've been looking at this and learning as much as I could about it, because one of the things that I've learned is that I want as many options as I can have when I get to that point. Now, the key component of all this is you have to have been diagnosed by 2 doctors as terminal and within 6 months. So it's not like I'm having a bad day, let me buy the cocktail. You can't. That's not how it works. It's just another option in case you don't have a way out, in case they don't in the next 6 months come up with a cure for, level 4 prostate cancer.
Stage 4.
Stage 4 prostate cancer. So there are other states that do that. I'm going to share that map with you now, just so you can look if you guys are interested. I know it's a miserable topic to be talking about, but to me, when people like this can show the courage to do what they did, and I listen to that story, I think to myself, well, that's another option. I want that option. And I did have the conversation with my doctor about it. And unfortunately, because it's a VA facility, it's a federal facility, it doesn't have that law. So if I choose this as an option, I'm going to have to do it in my own house, and I'm going to have to have independent doctors say that I'm terminal within 6 months, etc. I don't know if that's tomorrow or next week or 10 years from now or 20 years from now, but I like it as an option. So the other thing that interested me, well, if we have it, who else has it? And these are the states that do. The states in green have the law. The states in yellow are working towards the law. And the states in gray, there is no legislation going on. So if you live in one of those states and you want a project for yourself, especially if there's a chance that either you or someone you care about will experience this and you want to give them opportunities. Now, here's what I don't know. I don't know that if you live in Texas, for example, which doesn't have this law, and you drove to New Mexico and got the diagnosis there and then took the cocktail there, whether you could do. I don't know enough about that. You have to find that out on your own. I'm grateful that it's in, that we have the option in New Mexico, because it's very likely that I'm going to be here when I die. Arizona is working on the option, so at least they're headed in that direction. So you can see what's interesting to me is that the ones that are working towards it, there's a lot of conservative states that you wouldn't imagine would work towards that, but they are. Look at Idaho and Wyoming, which surprised me, Arizona, Alaska. The more traditionally liberal states like New Mexico, Colorado, California, Oregon, Washington. But again, there's Montana, which is not necessarily a progressive state. It tends to be more conservative. So at least they're considering the option. I think it's good that they're considering it, because I think it's a good option to have that kind of choice, because there's nothing worse than Janet's mother had one of those she was in hospice for an entire year, and we just watched her melt away. And this was a woman. This was a woman who was a hero in World War II. And you just didn't want that to happen to her. And you don't want it to happen to anybody you care about. So I'm glad the option is there. It's one of the things. So the conversation I have with my children is funny, because they just think I'm going to live forever. And I try to explain to them, no, I'm not going to live forever. And at some point you're going to have to deal with this stuff, which is why I have a will, and a trust. So, all right, enough about that. Let's talk about something better. Okay, I'm going to establish some rules here. Number one, if you are a prior winner and you know the answer to the question, please don't write it in the chat room until somebody who is not a prior winner can figure it out. Okay. So I'm going to show you a video, and what we want is the full, complete, and accurate name of the area in which this video was shot. All right, you ready? There we go. It's a drone video. It's a Toby drone. There we go.
I like the end because we're standing in like this formation.
Yeah. That was fun. That whole day was fun, even though we got invaded by chiggers, which we didn't know existed.
Wow.
All right. If you know the area in which that was shot, and you can represent it accurately, put it in there. But no, we want new winners. Okay? New winners only. You know, I thought about that, Mary Green, considering it's a prescription cocktail. I don't know. It should be used for death row, because every time you hear somebody on death row use that the chemical approach, it sounds like you know, they go crazy and they don't die and they have to beat them up, and you know, I don't know if they beat them.
I thought we were done talking about death.
Yeah, we have. Okay. No Silver Fox. That is a Mavic Air 2, which is I've had for, I don't know, 3 years now. I've had it every drone since the Phantom 1, and I've been, you know, they have the Mavic Air Pro, and it's a $3,000 drone, and I don't feel like I need it. If I was doing what let's say Jens does, where I'd have to he makes a living with his video work, including his drone work. He's making a living at it, so he has to buy, and I think he owns an Inspire. He has to buy the best drone he can afford to carry the cameras that he can afford. I don't. For me, I gave up my Part 107. I didn't renew my Part 107 certificate. So for me, it's an avocation, a hobby. So, and the Mavic Air shoots 4K, 60 frames. It's 100,000 bits per second. I mean, it makes beautiful 40 megabyte photos. So it's fine for me. I'm okay with that. No, Huli, we can't answer that question. Let's see. That's the way searchers work. What kind of trees were those in there? Something like that. They look like pine trees to me. Look like pine trees.
Funny looking when they're done from the top.
So no, Silver Fox, Mavic Air 2, which is still one of the drones you can buy. There's the Mavic 3 or the Mini 3. They just released the Mini 3. In the past year, they released the FPV, the Mavic FPV. And then about a year and a half ago, they had released the Mavic Pro. And that has a better camera, a little bit, not a better camera, but a better sensor. And it has a zoom feature on it. But I'm happy with them. It's compact. It goes in a little case. I'm going to take it with me when I go out east, because I love shooting the beaches, the water coming in on the beaches.
So you want to tell people where to find us or where to send their information if they should want to contact us?
Yes. So you can always contact us at support@agkmedia.studio. That email, that's how if you want to contact us via email. If you want to text us, you can send a text message to 505-750-2744. You can also call and leave a voicemail if that's how you want to do it. But those are our basic email addresses. Now, there's a lot of other stuff happening down in the crawl below, giving you a lot of options for reaching out. If you want to get our book, you can get it at book.livecastlife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Life.
And if you want to go to our website, you can go to Livecast Life. And if you want to see our what we recommend in terms of setting up your studio, you can go to studio.livecastlife. So there's all kinds of fun things. Yeah, Silver Fox says he flies the FPV drones. Did you make those yourself, or did you buy the DJI model? Because I know there's people that actually assemble those themselves from either kits or from scratch, and I think that takes a lot of talent to be able to do that, and patience, neither of which I have. So I just
Are we ready for our inspirational nugget?
I am. Let's pop up in the screen so we can see you when you do this. There we go. Actually, I'm going to do this very much.
Oh, you don't need to do that.
Oops.
Now I'm on this side. I'm taking the lead here.
Okay, take the lead.
So I get these from my Daily Stoic journal, and I like sharing them with you. And this week it's a trained mind is better than any script. This is a quote from Epictetus. Said, in this way, you must understand how laughable it is to say, tell me what to do. What advice could I possibly give? No, a far better request is train my mind to adapt to any circumstance. In this way, if circumstances take you off script, you won't be desperate for a new prompting. So it's basically critical thinking skills, right? So when you can think for yourself, you don't need other people to teach you because you go out and learn on your own. You do your own research, right? So it would be nice if someone could show us exactly what to do in every situation. This is what we spend a good portion of our lives doing, preparing for this and studying for that, saving for or anticipating some arbitrary point in the future. But plans, as the boxer Mike Tyson pointed out, last only until you're punched in the face. Stoic philosophers do not seek to have the answer for every question or a plan for every contingency. Yet they're also not worried. Why? Because they have confidence that they'll be able to adapt and change with the circumstances. Instead of looking for instruction, they cultivate skills like creativity, independence, self-confidence, ingenuity, and problem solving. In this way, they are resilient instead of rigid. We can practice the same. Let us focus on the strategic rather than the tactical. We'll remind ourselves that it's better to be taught than simply given answers, and better to be flexible than to stick to a script. And that's what we try to do here on News and Views. We come up with some things to talk about, but we're also guided by our audience. And when you give us those prompts, we want to address your questions or the things that you bring up and stay flexible and have a conversation.
That's a really good way to put it. I'm impressed. Not having to work from a script or being prepared. It's that that fight plan, right? Your plan for your fight works right up until the point at which you get punched in the face, and then
Or your battle plans.
Yeah, your battle
Until-
plans the same way
Yeah.
until the first engagement with the enemy.
Yeah.
So Silver Fox says he has the DJI FPV, which is nice. It's a great. I want to say it says great. It's a great learning device because it comes with the goggles and everything. With the DJI version of the goggles, and he also has 4 others that are carbon fiber, which means he assembled them himself. Do you race them at all? Because once you get into that carbon fiber thing, you start racing them. That's the next thing. So here's what Mary Green says. Mary Green says, a couple of years ago, some kid flew his drone close head level while I was miming. Is that dancing on the stage? While I was
Maybe.
dancing on the stage, started nodded out. Kid was pooed. Oh, well.
PO'd.
Oh, PO'd. Okay. Oh, okay.
Not sure what that all means.
That's a good story. So here's the deal. You are required by law not to fly. It doesn't make any difference. You have to have permission to fly over crowds, for one thing. But you get
It's not the Paposia.
no, not the good try. Long way. Thanks for the memories, though. Those were good memories, though. Lauren says, thank you, Shelley. Wise words. Shelley is filled with wise words. Lots of wise.
I try to keep it to a brief wise word.
Okay, so we still don't have a winner. I'll tell you what, if, again, you're not a recent winner and you come up with you really like doing that to me.
I like to be on this side.
There's a little, my heartbeat increases. Like, did she just leave me in the middle of the show? Yeah. I would no, yeah. That's a good question. Look at that. See?
Mm-hmm.
Hal might know the answer, but he's a recent winner, isn't he?
I think that's why he asked it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Good hint, Hal. Way not to give it away. But I thought Hooley's was the best because that's so searcher.
That's so Hooley.
Yeah. What are those trees? What kind of trees were those? Got some hint givers here. Hooley and Hal Gibson just gave you some hints. Got to work that out, guys. All
the
right.
Hooley and Hal team.
All right.
We'll try it again on Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll be back on Wednesday. I will If I end up getting anything of value out of the hearing on Monday, I might do a special Monday afternoon because I know that Mike and Christy go on Monday night. I don't want to step on their toes. Or maybe Tuesday, but I just don't expect anything to come out of it. The news will be McCracken's claim was dismissed early on. That, and I can post that as in our community page if it comes to that. There's nothing really to report on. Okay. Otherwise, we will see you on Tuesday night.
No.
No, I'm sorry, Wednesday night.
Wait, you're confusing people.
Just making stuff up, right? All right,
Wednesday
Shelley.
night. Wednesday night we'll be here. Hope that you will be too.
Nice to see you again, Shelley.
You betcha.
Glad you're doing well. We miss you.
It's cooled off to a balmy 104 degrees. So,
Oh, jeez.
yeah.
Oh, geez. We were supposed to get rain today, and it never showed up. That's 2 days in a row where it just doesn't happen. They predicted.
You gotta make your own by sweating.
Okay, well, you don't sweat. I've never seen you sweat.
Ugh.
You,
Sweat now.
what do they say? My mother would say, girls don't sweat, they glisten. That was back in the olden days.
That's right.
All right. Love you guys. We'll see you Wednesday.
Thank you for joining the conversation on News and Views, an AGK Media Studio livecast hosted by Shelley, Carney, and Toby Younis. Please subscribe and leave a comment or question, and we'll consider your ideas for future shows. Share this show with your family and friends and invite them to become a member of our community. Check the show notes for links and resources, and please come back again next week.